From Tally to Cali,
it's time
to wake up.
Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by Zaxby's.
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hajavandi
and Corey Clark.
Wake up! What's up, everybody? It's Wake Up Warchant, proudly presented by Zaxby's. I am Aslan Hajavandi. This program will feature lots and lots of Corey Clark. We adapted today's show from our YouTube live chat. The first 5 minutes was us talking about the breaking news that happened at 5 in the afternoon on Wednesday about the NCAA tournament not allowing fans to be in attendance. So a lot of that's probably dated. We also interviewed Dalen Cuff from the ACC Network and ESPN, which I'm going to play here in a minute. And we all discovered in real time this stuff happening. So by the time you listen to this, who knows? Florida State might come out and actually say they're going to cancel or suspend sports activities. But until that time, here is our podcast. Use the promo code FSU Spring 2020 to get 18 months of access for the price of 12 and a $50 e-card to Garnet and Gold. Florida State's supposed to host Georgia Tech in a 3-game set in baseball. We're not sure where that stands. Again, do check with Warchant.com. We're going to be on top of this. Irish O'Fell's in Greensboro. The ACC tournament has gone ahead and closed themselves off to the fans, but credentialed media are still in the house. So Ira's there, keeping us posted. Florida State plays Clemson, 12:30. With that said, let's get the thoughts on not that game, but this program as a whole via Dalen Cuff from the ACC Network. Dalen, thanks for joining us, man. How is Greensboro treating you thus far? It's your first ACC tournament out there, isn't it?
Yeah, my first time here. It's been good so far. Great crowd last night for that Carolina game. Obviously, NC State getting a win is important for their hopes. So it's going to be good. And this town and this area obviously loves the hoops. It's hoops, but this town really makes this a pretty interesting and special event. So it's been pretty cool. I'm looking forward to seeing the rest of it.
Clemson took down Miami on Wednesday afternoon and thus advanced to take on Florida State. Before we kind of look at that matchup, I mean, just a big picture, macro level kind of question for you, man. Just, Corey and I have been talking about Florida State's rise throughout the entire season. Neither of us obviously braced for Florida State, winning the ACC regular season title or anything along those lines. We thought they'd probably be a bubble team with everything they lost. What have you seen from this team, and what were the expectations you had for the program going to the season?
I think we talked about it whenever I was in Tallahassee last time I was on with you guys, or you, I guess, and over a cocktail as we chatted with
that's right.
Mercedes Mike in the building.
That's right.
I had high expectations for them coming into the year. I know most people didn't, but in our preseason show down at Media Day, I talked to Leonard Hamilton on air about it, talked to him off air about it. We talked as a panel set, just going through the fact that their program doesn't get the respect it deserves. I mean, they're one of 2 programs, one of 7 teams, over the last 2 years to get to at least the Sweet 16. That was that last year. They'd lead 8 the year before. I mean, the people, their peers in that group are Duke, Kentucky, Gonzaga, Texas Tech, and a couple others. I mean, those are blue bloods and some teams that have had tremendous success as of late. So that's the kind of ilk they're playing in. And I thought that they would have some growing pains. And our biggest question was, even when we were talking there in early January, was, do they have an alpha dog? Can they find that guy? That's what Leonard's kind of worried about. Who is that? And the progression this team has gone through from the first loss of the season, that first opening game against Pitt, to now, it's pretty impressive. And guys have really developed into roles. Devin Vassell, and he was my vote for most improved player in the ACC. I think he could be a top 20, maybe even a lottery pick. The kid's got great length, can really shoot it. MJ Walker's, stepped into roles and been happy at times when the bright lights are brightest to go make a play for them. Patrick Williams, a guy that could be a lottery pick with an NBA body. Guys that can, Dwight Wilkes has had his moments. Linacek has had his moments. I mean, there's all these different guys contribute to different things. And most important, I think in the last month or so, you found Trent Forrest to be their guy. Late, he's the guy that has the ball, and he's making plays. I mean, they know they're going to play Clemson tomorrow, and they lost that game up in Clemson. But late game, Trent's going to the basket making plays. And he had the last 2 possessions, he's going and making plays. And there were other games on the course of late in the season where he had to go get buckets for them, and that was kind of their guy they were going to play through. And I think there's a level of confidence and comfort in that, and he's delivered in that mode. So, I mean, overall, this team is – did I expect them to win the ACC title? No. Outright? No. But in our opening show, I said they would contend to be one of those teams in the top four, is what we're kind of looking at that point in time. And given what they lost, I thought that was, real overstatement of the program that Leonard Hamilton has built. And that has come to fruition, that this is a program, a system, and a lot of dudes with a lot of selflessness have bought in and achieved something pretty great there in Tallahassee.
It's rare, though, right? I mean, for a program to have this amount of guys contributing, night in and night out, it's we talk about it on the program, but just from somebody being on the outside that's looking at, all the teams in the ACC and covering college basketball at large around the country, this isn't common, right? To get a whole bunch of guys that buy in and play team ball like at its most pure form almost.
It's incredibly uncommon, and particularly in the minutes. It's not even the numbers put up. It's the, nobody really plays over, I think, 22, 23 minutes a game, really. There might be one. I think Forrest is up over that now, and maybe Vassell. But, these guys just don't demand to play and don't pout, if you will. Like, they know what they bought into. They came to know they were part of a system. You got to be selfless, and you got to give everything you got for those 2 to 4 minute spurts, because you're going to come out. So you've got to lay it on the line. You got to be there defensively and help. You got to guard your guy and shut him down. You've got to be able to get out in transition. You got to go make plays when you have the opportunity to. And it makes them really hard to scout, because there's nobody at the top of the scouting report that says, if you take away X, we can win this game. I mean, you just never know with them, and that makes them tough. I mean, the only other team in the country I can think of, it's like, that's not in terms of selflessness, it's just so many dudes, it's probably Gonzaga, who's been their bugaboo in the tournament the last couple years. Is a team that, this group of guys, they will go, they have 7 dudes that have a double digits, but they're also playing in a different conference, the West Coast Conference. They've been essentially unchallenged, minus the BYU game on the road, which was tough, through that entire league season. They were challenged a little bit in the conference tournament, but they have a bunch of guys that can hurt you, and it's hard to scout them, but there's still a couple guys you've got to take away, and then you have a better chance. I'm not even sure you really have that with Florida State, because there's always somebody that's willing and able to step up and emerge. That's why I'm so high on this team. I think out of all, they may not win here in Greensboro, because teams are used to seeing them in this tournament, and they're not shocked by their length or athleticism. It's hard, but they know what they're getting into, and they know the battle in front of them. But that's where they've had success in the NCAA tournament, is when you go outside a conference and teams aren't used to seeing it, and it's the 36-hour turnaround for the second game of each weekend. That's a lot to deal with, and I have the most confidence that Florida State will make the deepest run out of the ACC teams in the NCAA tournament. I think they could go to Atlanta, without a doubt, be a Final Four team.
Okay, I want to double back to something, Dalen, but maybe I should just go ahead and ask you this one too. So we haven't seen the bracket, obviously. We don't know the 68 teams that are going to make it. Would Florida State be like one of your top 5 teams to, I don't know if you want to say to win it all, but to at least make it maybe to Atlanta? I mean, would they be in that sort of rarefied air?
I think you got to see the bracket. I mean, the matchups are the most important thing. In the abstract, I would say, Kansas is up there for sure. Baylor's had some issues recently with injuries, and they've underperformed as of late. Before, I was most confident in Kansas and Baylor in terms of any teams in the country, and that I would put. I really love Dayton's team more than most. I think Dayton could be one of those top 5 teams I'd put in there. But as you go through, I see like a lot of holes in different teams. I think I have a level of confidence with Florida State. I would probably say, if I'm in the abstract, if I look at it and say, well, top 5 to get to Atlanta, I could see that. Now, it's a difference to say, do they win in Atlanta compared to some other teams? That's a different conversation. But barring seeing the matchups, I really do like this team and think that they're going to be a tough out for whoever they see.
And let me double back and ask you this, because you mentioned, when we spoke in January, when you were here to do the game, was it North Florida, the game that you were on the call for?
Yeah, actually, I think it was. I did 2 games there in like a 2-week period, but I think it was before the turn of the year, New Year. But I think it was the North Florida game we talked after that, before Christmas. Yeah. Yeah,
and you mentioned, can this team find an alpha? And we've had a lot of people ask Corey and I on the show about if Florida State has, the last possession, like, do you want Trent Forrest or Devin Vassell to be that kind of guy? Is it a good thing that they still seem to not have an alpha, or have you seen Vassell or Forrest kind of become that dude, I guess, that, a team needs or wants at this point in the season?
I think it's Trent. I think when you look at that Notre Dame game down the stretch, he's the guy going, he's got the ball late. Clemson game, even in a loss, back-to-back possessions, gets you back-to-back buckets. Unfortunately for Knowles fans, Alamir Dodds goes the other way and scores, and they win the game at the buzzer. Whenever, there have been, those are the last couple of weeks, but there have been other moments in the last month of the season where I felt like if you need a bucket, you need to play, they're playing through him. That doesn't mean that he has to shoot the ball. In these instances, he has. But at times, I think he's the best guy to go and create sometimes for Vassell. If he's getting in lane, he can kick it out and create for others or himself. I think he provides the best option. I think Leonard Hamilton has realized that, and that's why in late game situation they've gone to him. And I think that's the guy they're going to try to ride in those situations.
Dalen, I did a little research about a week ago, and the last team to win the national championship, whose leading scorer scored under 13 points per game, was Kentucky in 1948. And only like 3 times has the leading scorer been under 14 points per game. Like Anthony Davis's Kentucky team, that incredible Florida team where they all averaged 13 a game with Noah and Horford. For Florida State to make a deep run in this thing, I know Trent Forrest, I think, is the guy that maybe at the end of the game you want the ball in his hands. But are you going to have to get a special performance out of a Vassell, out of an MJ Walker, like a 22, 24-point outing? Is it realistic to think you can win 6 straight games or even 4 straight games to get to the Final Four without having just an dominant performance by a player?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what makes them unique, though. I think you'll have the spikes. So maybe one day it's MJ shoots up with, when they beat Louisville. I think he had 23 or something in that first Louisville game. And, different games, Vassell spikes up and comes. That's the thing is it doesn't have to just be one guy. Like you need, yes, to win in the tournament, guys got to play well. Like it's an easy competition. Like outside of that 2-15 matchup, I think they're most definitely going to be a 2 seed. Even if they win the ACC tournament, I think they'd likely still be a 2 seed. That 2-15 matchup, they should be able to overwhelm in terms of the athleticism gap between a 15 seed and them is so significant. They can overwhelm them. After that, they got to play well. They got to have guys that go make shots and make plays. And I think that's the beauty of their team is it will have to be a different guy, or maybe it is the same guy back-to-back games. You just don't know. That's the puzzling nature of it. Just to let you guys know, when you look at a scouting report, you will always list, the top 5-7 guys, and then the top 3, as coaches will go through it, are much more detailed on some tendencies and really talk about how to take them away, how to force them to do different things. And you always kind of say to yourself, if we do X, Y, and Z, we can win the game. And usually X and Y are taking away this guy or that guy or taking away this move or making when we double, here's how we're going to double and here's how we're going to guard. And if we do that well enough so he can't score on the inside, we should win the game. You really can't do that with them. You've got to be able to take care of the ball, can't turn it over, can't let him get out in transition off makes or misses. And you have to contain Trent Forrest. You have to know where Vassell is at all times. Raekwon Gray, when he's not trying to do too much, he's got phenomenal feet. He can go and hurt you. Again, you can run through the whole list. That's what makes it hard because as a player, particularly if you play Thursday, and then you have off Friday, you get right into locked into, all right, here's how we got to prepare. Here's a scouting report. And you haven't seen this team before in person. You got to know 10 guys' tendencies. Like that never happens. But usually after 5, maybe 6, you got to know, okay, he's a shooter. That's it. Just run him off the line. Okay, cool. He's a driver. All right, I'll close out short and space him and contest late. Okay. There's just way more you got to know mentally. They tax you much more mentally as well as physically, just understanding what every guy is going to do because every time a guy catches the ball, for the most part, they're a threat. And when you look across college basketball, usually on every court, there's 2 to 3 guys that can actually hurt you with the ball. If there's 4 or 5, you got a real special team. And that's why they fall into that category most times. When they're playing Koprivica and Olenicek, that might be slightly different. They can hurt you in the post. They're not going to hurt you with the ball. But other than that, if they go small, even Osborne stepping out knocking down threes. I mean, that construction of this squad is just really hard to deal with, again, especially when you're not used to seeing them and especially on a short turnaround.
And I got one more question. It was just released as we were doing this interview. Mark Emmert came out and said that there will be no fans other than necessary personnel and family members at any of the NCAA tournament games. So
wow,
no
breaking
crowd
news
at the Final Four, no crowd at the Sweet 16, no crowd for Florida State and Tampa. Number one, we're all going to get to hear how much Krzyzewski yells at a ref, which is going to be incredible. But
that's going to be interesting.
Is there? I don't even know how to phrase this question. We've never seen anything like this. I think Siena, like 30 years ago, played an empty gym game in the championship of the tournament because of the flu. But we've never seen anything like this. How do you think it affects, if any? Number one, I think it is a disadvantage for Florida State. They played 31 games to get to play in Tampa and probably have 6, 7, 8,000 of their fans there. And now they're going to have no fans there. It's going to be an empty gym. Does it change anything you suspect about this tournament at all? Or is it so surreal and bizarre that you can't even possibly handicap something like that, and the effect it will have just on the watch and then also on the players themselves?
Real quick, since we're all on the phone doing this right now as it's coming down, I'll read it to you, Dalen. Part of the statement from Mark Emmert, the NCAA president. I've made the decision to conduct our upcoming championship events, including Division I men and women's basketball tournaments, with only essential staff and limited family attendance. While I understand how disappointing this is for all of our fans of all of our sports, my decision is based on the current understanding of how COVID-19 is progressing in the United States. So, it's happening. It happened. Crazy. Empty stadiums.
I mean, now let's just to put this in perspective, this isn't, a shock. And I mean, as we're talking right now, Paris Saint-Germain is playing a Champions League game against Borussia Dortmund. That's the biggest competition in Europe in soccer. That's the biggest competition every year in the world's game. They're playing with nobody in the stands. 60,000, 45,000 person stadium. Nobody's there. And it's a weird watch. It's awkward. But for them, that is a massive game. That is a tournament right now, and they're in the round of 16 with so much to play for the guys in terms of legacy, money. That's the championship every guy who plays in soccer in Europe wants. Just like every guy plays college basketball wants to play in this tournament, wants to win this tournament. So I don't think it all affects the actual, the energy you're going to play with, the desire to win, how important it is. It is, however, going to be odd. I mean, these guys never play in front of nobody. Yeah. When we played against Dartmouth, it was friends and family only, and that would be brutal. You're in front of 200 people. You got to bring your own energy in that game. The difference is when it's a tournament game, when you got so much on the line, I think you'll see the competition the same. It just will be a really weird watch. You will hear a lot of weird things. Good point with Coach K or any other coaches. You will hear they'll have to have the dump button on their hand real quick for CVS and Turner because there's definitely going to be some choice words being easily audibly heard. But I'm not that surprised. I was more surprised the Ivy League canceled their tournament overall. This seems like the most logical conclusion. You don't have to have massive crowds, don't have massive crowds, but you can still have the competition with limited people, and I think have limited, spread or whatever, mitigate the issues that could be coming because of coronavirus. I do think it's unfortunate for the players and the fans. You're right. I mean, there are a lot of those top four seeds, particularly you mentioned Florida State. They have a chance to play in Tampa, and they'd be turning out a great crowd. And that's not going to be there. And those things do factor in later in games, and particularly when you're on the defensive end. And if your crowd is actually there, limiting guys' ability to hear really is important. And when people can't hear the calls, they can't communicate. That affects teams' ability. That's what a home court advantage is mostly about, and that's now gone. I can't say it's the wrong decision because obviously I think you've got to err on the side of caution. If they cancel the whole thing, I would think it's a bridge too far, which, like I said, the Ivy League did. This is quite a surprise, and I think we're all just in uncharted waters. I think it's going to be a really weird thing to say, to say the least.
I think we tweeted one quiet moment instead of one shining moment is what it's going to be like. So I can't take credit for that one. Dalen Cuff from the ACC Network and ESPN joining us here on Wake Up Warchant, giving us the latest as he joins us again from the ACC tournament in Greensboro. If we can get a hold of Ira, I'll tell him to get you a drink, Dalen. Thanks for joining us, man. Appreciate it.
Sounds good, fellas. Have a good one.
Shout out to my guy, Dalen Cuff. He's on ACC Network. Check out his stuff. He's good at what he does. Respect the man. And now, here we go. Lots of football. Lots and lots of football. Renegade Express, if we didn't take your question on today's show, which was yesterday, we will do it for the Friday show, which we'll record later today, and it'll have a whole lot of football because we're going to watch practice again. It's great. Mike Norvell, a good dude. I mean, from what we know. Anyhow, with that said, let's get to the questions. I'll go ahead and maybe try to answer the first question myself, although I'm sure Chris Kelly 941 probably wants Corey's insight as well. This is only second post ever. He asks, first off, he does say, "Wake up! Hey guys, love the podcast. I want to get your thoughts on Coach Fuller and what kind of intensity he brings to practice. Also, really excited to see the Noles here in Tampa come tourney time. Any idea on what time the games will be?" Well, he posted this question at midnight. Things obviously have changed. By the time most of the people that watch this, we got a lot of folks that watch it on replay. I'm sure things will have changed by then as well. We do know they're playing. Well, actually, we don't know whether, but we do know that Tampa's a Thursday, Saturday site. So we would expect on those days, obviously. The times we do not know yet. But what are our thoughts, Corey, as you rejoin us on Coach Adam Fuller and what kind of intensity he brings to practice?
Fuller, I like him. He's not a yeller necessarily, like a screamer, but he is intense. There's not a lot of joking around, and there's a lot of teaching. He's like a, he's not Jimbo. He's not screaming all the time. He does have a loud voice. He's got that Boston voice, that Boston accent, but he's doing a lot of teaching intensely throughout the course of those 2 hours that I can see. I really like him. His attention to detail is something that I think is pretty rare. I don't think it's just rare compared to last year. I think it's just rare when he's dealing with the defensive backs, when he's coaching them, or when he's just coaching in general. Because it's not all about, hey man, you need to be here. This is where you need to be. You read that wrong. It's about, this is how you got to get here. These are the steps you have to take. Don't cross over or cross over. Or when you're punching someone, I don't want you extended like this. I want you like that, getting into them like that. Can you see that, Aslan? Can you see that, the way that body moves? Yeah, just pop it. So yeah, I do like the attention to detail, and he is a pretty intense dude.
Of course, you stopped talking the one time I go reach for my water bottle. You saw it, though. I like you set me up for success. I appreciate you, teammate. Yeah, man, he got in the kitchen of, I would assume, a presumed starter for this defense the first day of practice, got in his face and wasn't happy with kind of his attitude. So he's definitely not shy to call guys out, but we do see him also encouraging guys a lot. I think his intensity is great, man. It's, we weren't able to see practices start to finish all the time with the previous staff. I think we probably saw enough games from Charles Kelly where we had a pretty good idea of maybe his temperament. Adam Fuller, to me, seems to have a real... He's kind of what you want a defensive coordinator. There's a lot of aggressive, there's a lot of intense getting on guys, which I think you have to do. And the crazy thing, too, is this is the beginning of everything. This is like the easy part. This is fundamentals. He's talking about... They're just giving them the fundamental looks they want to give the offense. Like there's not a lot of checks and changes and things like that. So when he starts adding more stuff, he's going to be much more demanding on these guys, and I'm sure will also kind of adjust the way he does teach these kids. But so far, so good, man. Again, a sharp guy, and when you see him communicate to the guys, it's 3 or 4 words, and things are being picked up on, and it's on to the next thing. There's a clarity in the communication that I don't think we saw a lot with the previous staff that makes me feel a bit encouraged, Corey.
Agreed. He is a little gruff. He's got that Boston gruffness to him. Yeah. But what he has to be, what all good coaches and teachers have to be, is good communicators. And it's only been 2 days, so we'll see. And he's not really installing much. But once we'll see how well he communicates by how well these guys know how to play zone, for instance. Can he communicate his philosophy well enough that these guys know what the flip they're doing, and there's not dudes just running free all over the field?
Yeah. All right, let's go to our next question. It also comes from the Tribal Council, Quiet Warrior. Aslan,
hey, I'm listening.
Corey.
I'm listening. You ask while I'm listening.
No one would see. No one would even know that you're getting up to move away, Corey, if you didn't say anything.
Sorry.
Wake up, gentlemen, or actually in all caps, wake up! Great job on the show. Every episode is a must-listen for me up here in Flowery Branch, Georgia. Corey, we're practically neighbors. We should grab a beer sometime. Did you hear that?
I did hear that. What up? Flowery Branch, represent.
Also, my 12-year-old son loves him some Zaxby's. His Big Zax pack is his go-to. So we're teaching him young. That's very good. Last week, you guys debated on which song should replace Eastbound and Down to be played between the third and fourth quarters at Doak. Eastbound and Down, fun and catchy, but maybe not quite the song that portrays what needs to be done in the midst of a big game. I do like the idea of honoring the great Burt Reynolds with whatever song is played. In that train of thought, what movie is considered maybe Burt's most acclaimed role? I would say there's no doubt it was the role of movie producer Jack Horner in Boogie Nights. That being the case, doesn't it have to be the best-known song from the Boogie Nights soundtrack? Three Dog Nights, Mama Told Me Not to Come. What do you think, man? Go Knowles.
Yeah, I feel like that would be another one that's a little odd to play between the third and fourth quarter. Any of those Boogie Nights, I don't think you want to elicit any imagery from Boogie Nights in the before the fourth quarter of a football game. Again, his best movie, if it's not Boogie Nights, like he's known best obviously for Smoking the Bandit, Cannonball Run, and all that. But his Deliverance, and we know the most famous song from Deliverance. So I guess you either go Three Dog Night or you go Dueling Banjos. By the way, I don't know if you can see these. I found some old headphones.
Go ahead.
That I think have I think I could use this plug-in here.
I don't think so. That's sort of like it's like an airplane. That's like an airplane adapter you have.
Oh, These are from at least the early 2000s, maybe late 90s, and they're tied up like the Christmas lights and vacation. So I could try to untangle these, and they might be ready by the end of the show.
No one's complaining. Although the audio fidelity is not as good as a podcast usually is, so we do apologize to our podcast listeners who are digesting this on their commutes. We'll figure out a better way to adapt our live YouTube to our podcast. Lots of crazy stuff going on. But anywho, on to the next question, Corey. We're back to the Tribal Council. This comes from Turntull Lives. Wake up. I'm a booster. We got a survey from FSU. It dealt mostly with stadium improvements. My question, however, concerns tailgate lot opening times. Can they open tailgate lots more than 5 hours before kickoff? I know it might not sound like a big deal, but for me, it takes about 30 minutes to set up and take down. That only leaves 4 hours to crush ultras, eat burgers, and listen to the pregame.
Yeah, so for an 8 o'clock game, they don't open the lots until 3 p.m.?
That's what it sounds like.
That seems crazy. Is that true?
Yeah.
That doesn't seem real.
I think a big deal was being made before the Oklahoma game in 11, because that was a 8 p.m. kickoff on ABC, and I think that was in effect or whatever. Or they might have pushed it. There was some game in the last few years that was a big time night game, maybe a Cat 5. Jeff Cameron would have categorized it as that. I think the boosters ended up happening where they opened the lot an hour earlier than usual, but still it doesn't seem to be to the liking of most boosters. Example, Turntull Lives asking his question.
Yeah, and I get it, man. Like, it's an all-day affair. If you have an 8 o'clock game, you don't want to wait until 3 to get over there to start setting up. You can get over there at noon, 11. I don't know. It's probably safer to not be over there for 9 hours before. What are you doing?
No one can see me, Corey. Like, I'm trying to read these questions that are on YouTube.
Looking at me, it was crazy.
Well, see, you see me on this camera, but I'm actually on this other camera over here, so that's why I'm freaking you out.
Oh, it's disconcerting.
Yeah.
So I would be all for that. I don't know why you would have a 5 hour. I wonder if there's a curfew after a game too. I guess there has to be. Yeah. Maybe 2 or 3 hours after a game, you got to get out of there. I'm sure it's like maybe policing or staffing to have people in those opening those lots at noon for an 8 o'clock game. I guess they don't want to do that, but I'm with you, man. They need to. I'm telling you, it is a reality of college football now because attendance is plummeting. And who knows if we'll even have college football in the fall, the way this thing is going. But if we do, and people are allowed to go watch the games, you have to do everything you can to make this an event that people want to come to. Don't make it harder for them to come. Make it easier. If people want to get there at 10 a.m., let them get there at 10 a.m. You at some point, if you keep, and I'm not saying Florida State is doing this necessarily. I'm certainly not saying Florida State is alone. But if you keep pushing them away or giving them all these rules or cutting back on things that they're used to, they're finally going to say, I don't want to spend my money there with you anymore. Like my man Turntull Lives.
Nice.
Take care of Turntull.
I don't know. I wonder if it's Ira. Somebody has taken over our moderator account on YouTube and is answering some of the questions that the folks on YouTube are asking. So do appreciate that. That helps out. Somebody was asking what our favorite drill is so far. Have you seen a favorite drill that you like? I like the first day, and this was something I never saw from the previous staff, which again, I don't know if it's good or bad, but I think they were teaching them how to properly like rush and kind of duck under a block, which is good for the people that are watching on video, the folks that, are loyal to us and listen to a podcast, like, what are you doing right now? But they pretty much had a broomstick behind their back with like their arms locked, and they were running with this broomstick like behind their back with their arms locked over it, and then having to, run full speed and then, kind of like duck your elbow to get around a block if you're a gunner, or if you're, on any sort of rush, to kind of see something like that that's going to limit you and hinder you. And then I'm always a fan of that kind of stuff. You know how it is in the gym, Corey. It's like you put on a weight vest to make things a little harder when you're on the treadmill, or you put one of those masks over your face to make your breathing a little more, laborious. So when you take that stuff off, then it's like, oh yeah, I'm free to go. I'm a cheetah. I'm a gazelle, man. I'm running. I like that drill.
Yeah, I like the drill where they're all in big fat sumo costumes, running around. Because when you take that off, you're like a bird, baby. You're flying. The one I liked the most was the one, and I shouldn't say I liked it the most, but it caught my eye, and I talked to you about it. I think when they're doing the defensive rush drill, the defensive tackles, I guess it was defensive ends too. So let's just say all the defensive linemen were doing a drill where they had to run around, I don't know what you want to call it, a cone. They had to pick up a towel, and then they had to go hit the dummy, the tackling dummy. Yeah. And the tackling dummy had like an arm set up with a football in it, taped like an arm taped to the dummy with a football in it, and they had to they're like a strip sack from behind is what they were practicing. I thought that was something I hadn't seen before. It was a good idea.
Hashtag mission turnover. It's Adam Fuller's whole mantra, right? Get the ball.
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right.
Get the ball, get it back. Hey, let's go to this guy. I keep seeing people saying this on YouTube as well, so maybe you can provide some clarity because I don't know. Are they calling you Sweet Pea or something on headlines, Corey? I'm guessing it's some sort of headlines joke.
Somebody asked, one of the headliner questions asked if we were going to be nicknamed for food, what would we be?
Oh.
And Jeff said, well, Corey would be Sweet Pea. And I'm like, that doesn't, no, I wouldn't. And I protested just enough.
Right.
That's what everybody's calling me.
Okay.
So I don't even know. And like I pointed out, what is a sweet pea? Is that a real?
No clue.
Is that just a pea with sugar on it, or is there a whole separate vegetable called sweet pea? And then Ira's chili dog, but nobody calls him chili. I suggested chili dog for Ira, but nobody calls him that. And then Jeff is nothing. Nobody came up with anything for Jeff. So cool. So yeah, now everybody calls me Sweet Pea.
Good news. Some random person on YouTube named Claude Villainaire says that as with every other virus outbreak, this will be old news by June. Thanks, Claude.
I hope so, buddy. I'm with you, man. I hope so, and I hope we're a relatively healthy country after it passes.
Maxwell Gibbs says, "Wake up, Aslan. Wake up, Sweet Pea. Spring is in the air. It's one of the best times of the year in all of sports. Question for you two this week: would you prefer the basketball team to be a 1 seed and have a tough side of the bracket, or would you rather them be a 2 seed and have much more favorable matchups? You two are back to a 5-star review." So,
thanks, Gibby.
2 seed. Give me the easier bracket.
It is just so. I find it hard to even talk about the tournament right now.
Oh, stop.
I can't. I can't get. It's just bizarre. It's gonna be like it's just gonna be so weird to watch. Like you're thinking, okay, we'll see you match up with Kentucky in the Elite Eight in front of 14 people. Like it's just weird, right? You're gonna cut down the nets in an empty gym. The only cheering you're gonna hear is from your own bench. It's just going to be really, really weird. But yes, I think you'd always want to be a 1 seed, always.
Really? I would rather take the easier side of the bracket and be a 2 seed. I'd rather have better matchups and be a 2 seed.
Like I said, man, I don't necessarily. I think it's basketball. It's like you're going to win. If you don't, you're going to lose. You'd rather play easier teams.
Okay.
Right? And I mean easier in the first 2 rounds. After that, I think it's all. It really, honestly, is a crapshoot after the first 2 rounds.
Other question from Maxwell Gibbs. He read that Nebraska basketball was down to 7 scholarship players for the Big Ten tournament. They decided to add 2 football players to their roster to give them some depth. If Leonard needed to add 2 current football players to the roster right now, which 2 would they be? That's a great question. Good stuff. That's way to go. Good stuff there. Thank you. Way to be a good guy there, Maxwell.
So, I think the first response would be Hamsa, but he's hurt, so he's out of the equation. If we're talking about able bodies, wouldn't you want size? But who would that be?
Jalen Goss.
There's your small forward. Yeah, maybe I don't know. I don't know if he can play. I mean, I feel like Tamarian Terry would probably be somebody you could throw alley oops to. It could play a little bit on defense.
Warren Thompson maybe got some of that dog in him.
Yeah. I was just trying to think of who, like the biggest guy, like Robert Cooper.
Ooh.
He could give you a couple trips up and down the court. He could get you some fouls. Right?
I think Marvin maybe has a little more swiftness than him, but still has that girth.
100%. Yeah, he's not as big as Robert Cooper. I'm looking for big bodies.
Mike Arnold, my boy Mike Arnold, greasy.
There you go. That's all you need. There's your paint. There's the guy in the paint by himself. Have to come out after a few trips up and down the court, but Florida State does that anyway.
Yeah, there we go. Next question.
That's a hard one. It's a good question, but it's a hard one.
Yeah. J.I.I. Knowles. It's Jeremy from Miami. Wake up! What up, guys? What up, 5-star fellas? He actually says. I know the media is all for as much access as possible, rightfully so. But is it possible that too much access can give our opponents too much information on what is taking place on our practice fields before games? Thanks for all you guys do. Everyone here, please rate, review with a 5-star rating. Also, shout out to the good guys at Zaxby's. Oh, that's right.
There you go.
That's
Well
right.
done.
That's right.
What happened there?
Drop,
You all right?
drop the cap to my dry erase pen. So I have this dry erase pen so I can mark down certain times in the show when we talk about certain topics so I can put it in the rundown. It took me 25 minutes to remember it today, so it's going to be a messy one. Again, apologies to all of our loyal listeners on the podcast. We are damning you for the sake of YouTube hits right now.
Yeah, no, there definitely is. There's a line there where if, especially come the fall, if they're working on a special package or a couple of trick plays or a fake field goal, yeah, you don't write about it. Or if you say, hey, Travis Jay got about 20% of the reps at quarterback today. That's a disadvantage for Florida State if they're trying to spring that as a surprise. And I think that's something that obviously I know not to do. And I think it's something that Norvell would say to us or have Derek, the FSU SID, say to us. Like anything you saw that was out of the ordinary as far as a trick play or a different formation does not get reported. So it's got you. I think there'll be more discussions as we go. Right now it's the spring, so it's a little different. They're not, necessarily working on game plan for West Virginia. They're just working on installing their own base stuff. So it's not really an issue. But come August and come September, it will be an issue, and I think it's something we'll talk about. But, yeah, none of us are looking to be like, guys, wait till Saturday when you see this triple reverse pass. Right. It's incredible. We wouldn't do that. Well, I wouldn't do that. Aslan, I don't know.
We never know. They might put some red herrings out there. There was that time at IMG where they had LeBourne and Cam both in the backfield, and the snap would go to Cam, and they would run an option with Cam as a quarterback, and he would pitch it to LeBourne. How many times did we see that last season?
Could have probably used it in a few of those games, I'm thinking.
Yeah, they never ran it, so you never know. Maybe they'll put some. Maybe they'll put some subversion in their practice and throw some stuff in there. Hey, Aslan, show this, so that Manny Diaz can think he knows what's going on. But then, bang, you don't know what's going on, Manny. You don't know what's going on.
You got it. Next level
let's
stuff.
See here. Let's go to our next question. Comes from Noel Pimp. Prove Arbs 27-17. I think that means I think he's picking Providence in his bracket, which is kind of a weird thing. But good luck to the Friars. I really have I got no qualms with them.
I got two. I don't know if you got them too, but I got 2 tweets today from people saying that. They sent me a Bible verse, and I think it's Proverbs, that iron sharpeneth iron.
No.
And I don't know if they were being funny, or if they really think that I coined iron sharpens iron. I can't imagine they really think that I think that, but they might.
I have no clue what you're talking about. Old Dad's a Knoll. Wake up. Since we are approaching Heartbreak City, no, not Seminole baseball, time for fans and teams. What is your most crushing loss for Seminole basketball? Mine was 89. Complete collapse against Middle Tennessee in the 89 tournament.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a bad one. I would say mine was VCU in the Sweet 16. Only because Derwin had 2 chances to win the game, and he wouldn't shoot before the buzzer sounded. And I like Derwin a lot. And then also, we were in San Antonio, and it was a cool city. And I wanted to stay an extra 2 days and watch them play Kansas, which I didn't think they were going to beat Kansas. But I thought it would be cool to be there an extra 2 days. And instead, they scored with 4 seconds left or whatever it was to win that game. So that's probably the one.
Flying High Knoll, from watching practices, how has the new staff addressed the conditioning of the team? In your opinion, will there be less cramps and second half letdowns, in the coming year? I've only seen, I haven't seen anybody fall out. It's spring, so the weather's pretty mild. It's actually been really nice the first 2 days. I saw a true freshman kind of after one play come to the sideline and take, a good 15, 20 seconds to himself to gather himself. Otherwise, I haven't seen anybody fall out or kind of, have to pull themselves out of drills or anything like that. But again, the weather's kind of mild, so I wouldn't put too much stock into that right now.
I assume they'll be in better shape. They all talk about how hard the tour of duty was, but we won't really know until August, right? Because that's the oppressive stuff that You can't mentally prepare your body for it. You have to physically go through it, and we'll see how they react to that. Because that's 5 months from now. So it's not like the next 5 months they're just going to be going to the beach. I mean, they're going to be in conditioning and working on their bodies for the next 5 months. So we'll see how much this strength and nutrition staff work. How well they work with these guys come August, and how well they're handling that heat. And I don't expect them to handle it well at all. Like they're going to be really tired. It's like, remember Erin Andrews, anytime she would do a football game that I watched, a college football game, in the third quarter, she would always like literally every time she did a Florida State game, it felt like, but any game maybe, she would talk about how hard the offensive line was breathing when they came off the field, and they're really tired and they're really struggling. And it's like, man, that's what they all look like. It's not easy. None of them are like skipping rope, or riding a bike after they're done being on the field for 8 plays. It's really hard, and so they go and catch their breath. So that in August, they're all going to look like they're not in great shape because they're all going to be sweaty and really tired. Right. But I think we'll see. Don't you think we'll see dividends?
Yeah, I would think so. Fact of the matter is they've got like 2 weeks of not having to go to class. 3 weeks if you count spring break. All their classes are going to be from remote, online classes. Just constantly drink your shakes.
Now that will be interesting because obviously they're going to want people to. They're doing this to have kids not to stay home, but I assume the football team won't. The football team will be here for spring practice, so I assume. They said that sports isn't affected at this point, right?
Yeah, they're just
on campus. Like there's a baseball team. There's a baseball game today.
Right. They said that any sort of changes will be made in coordination with the NCAA and the ACC. But again, with the NCAA, pushing fans away from their largest property, it would not probably be a stretch to think that maybe something else would happen. But that, again, would be pure conjecture. People saying that there's audio problems. It might be the connectivity right now. Might be my fault. I really don't know. I'm not an engineer. Bear with. Hopefully, at least sounds good for the people listening on the podcast. I care about them a little bit. Next question here comes from, pulling it up here, Subaxley1212. He wants to know what's our most memorable spring break. For me, 2004, Daytona Beach. Man, we had like 3 rooms that all attached to each other, and there was like 12 of us. Vanilla Ice, actually. Like, in Vanilla Ice, obviously, hasn't been anything for God knows how long. But, it was one of his reincarnations of trying to come back. He played at our hotel. And, so we were, up drinking at our hotel room because, Daytona Beach doesn't allow you to open up your doors or your windows because people get drunk and fall out of them. But I'll always remember, Vanilla Ice was playing. And then he had a really good drummer. And one of my, Mercedes Mike is a drummer. And he was like, this guy's awesome. But otherwise, that was probably the most alcohol I consumed, over a 4-day span of my life. 2004 spring break. The whole Rick James skit from Dave Chappelle had come out, so everybody was yelling at each other, I'm Rick James, bleep. Very memorable. Yeah. Very memorable spring break.
Yeah, I don't have a story quite like that. I don't think I really took a spring break trip like that with my buddies, but I did go to spring training with my dad when I was in college, and we did that for a spring break, and that was really cool. I saw Robin Ventura break his leg in a spring training game. Oh. It was really disgusting. Literally, me and my dad had these seats behind home. Yeah, it was one of those. Me and my dad had these. We moved to these seats behind home plate, and this group of 5 just gorgeous women sat down in front of us in the 7th inning. It was like, wow, that's something. And then 12 minutes later, Ventura's coming home on a double to the gap or something, and he breaks his leg. And they all start looking at the woman at the front of the end of the row, and they realize, and then we realized really quickly, oh, that's Robin Ventura's wife. And anyway, what was crazy about it is it was so you could see the reactions of the player. When you see that when the players walk up to him and then they immediately turn away, oh, I can't look at that. And the umpires were doing that too. The umpires couldn't look at it. And there were 3 or 4 people legitimately that passed out in the stands because they saw it. Ooh. There were paramedics running all over the stands trying to resuscitate people because they had passed out seeing his injury. But yeah, that was probably the most memorable.
Jeff Mayers on YouTube says, I saw Vanilla Ice at the Colorado State Fair a few years back. It was honestly a very good concert. Somebody with what looks like Russian font says, hello from St. Petersburg, Russia. Go Noles.
Okay.
Everybody.
All
They're
right.
all out there. They're all out there. Also, Sabaxley1212, his question continues. He is cautiously optimistic about the new staff and the fall football season, but I also know what the last 3 years have been like. I don't want to get my hopes up only to have them crushed. Corey, as someone who has seen the best and worst of FSU football since the 80s, from what we have seen from Mike Norvell and his staff, can we remove cautiously from our outlook for next season, or do we need to wait until October 2nd before believing that things truly are better?
Yeah, I'm not removing cautiously.
Ooh.
I can't do it. I can't do it. I'm not doing it. I like what I've seen. I believe in the dude. I think he knows what he's doing, and he's put together a really good staff. But I want to see it translate on the field, and I want to see what this offensive line looks like before I start predicting great success in the near future. But I think, man, he's on the right path. I'm not trying to peel your optimism away. He's on the right path. He's impressive. We just got to see how it translates.
See, I think offensive line is wait and see if you have like pie in the sky 10-win aspirations. But I think 7 to 8 wins, and
yeah, but you won 6 last year, so that's not a big. I mean, I know it matters how it looks, but still, I don't know that going from 6 wins to 7 or 8 wins is going to be enough to rally us up and know that this is the guy for the job.
Right. Well, I do think. I mean, there's even in two practices worth, I just see a level of organization and focus and just like what you need from a coaching staff, like how your coaches need to talk to players, how they need to stay on top of them, to see the way players respond to it, to think that like at least right there, you're like +1, automatically right there.
Yeah.
Now they've got 13 more of these practices, 3 months of being in the gym, and then whatever, I don't know, 18, 20 practices, whatever they have in preseason to get ready for a West Virginia team that's probably, on level ground with the way that Florida State played last season. So win that game, then everything good happens. So. Also, he wanted to know if there's any more Tinder updates. I don't have a Tinder update. I don't want to compare this to my buddy Mike Sands, who I wear his bracelet in his memory, lost his battle to cancer earlier this year, and we still had a group text with all of us. And it was never about what he was going through. It was just always talking about sports and the way that we used to, work together in Mississippi. And he would joke about people. He made this video, like an update for let everybody know. And he was like, people keep texting me all the time. Mike, what's up? What's an update? What's the latest? He's like, I'll let you know when there's an update. And it was really funny because he's a very sarcastic guy and he was going through, obviously, fighting for his life. But yeah, I mean, I'm not fighting for my life. I'm healthy, I think. But when there's an update, I will let you folks know. I will gladly share details of my dating life with you folks. Otherwise,
yeah, what does that mean? If you just have a date, you're going to tell us?
If there's something either like encouraging, like I think I make a really good girl, or like something funny with a tattoo on a girl.
Right.
If it's a good story, I'm not going to talk about it just to talk about it. I'm here for good stories, man. It's all about.
I forgot about the tattoo girl, man.
By the way, I think we met the Tom Brink family in El Paso for the game. I showed them the tattoo, and then somebody with the program asked me if they could see the tattoo. I have since deleted the photo of the tattoo from my phone, so I'm not showing it anymore. Not showing it anymore. My lawyer told me to stop talking about it as well, too. So
that's probably smart. Very smart.
Leon Knoll 12 says, "Wake up, fellas! Aslan, the James Blackman support group meets Tuesdays, 7:30. Zaxby's on Capitol Circle. We would love to see you there." I will. I don't know if you noticed, Corey.
What do you think that crowd looks like?
It's not strong. There's not a lot of us.
It's not a rush.
So I'm the one who publishes the raw video onto the front page of warchant.com. And I'm the one that can pick out what photo I want to use to showcase and advertise that story. And I'm just, I got 20 minutes of video and I'm scrubbing through it, as we say in the video industry, scrubbing through it, trying to find a good image. And literally it stops on this really good shot of James running through the pylons in a ball security drill. And I'm like, I'm going to use a James Blackman photo just to trigger our fan base.
Nice. Well, that's good. That's
fair. I'm in their heads. There's a small faction of the fan base that's upset that I'm rooting for him, just to see them be upset. It's a beautiful thing that we're working out. But
Well, let us know how that
I
support
will.
group goes.
His question is, of all the new assistant coaches, which one is y'all's favorite to watch coach? Also, is there one player that seems to have made the jump so far? I don't think so. I know it's early, but just curious. Love the show. Keep up the great work. I like Papuchis. Like Papuchis is just he's a rabid bulldog. He's just yelling, raising it. Just where are you? Get over there! Like Papuchis that's like his job right now. Just like yelling and getting everybody in the right place at the right time. So
especially during those, because they'll do like 2 or 3 periods devoted an entire field to special teams. Yeah. You know, it's not just like he's got a portion of one practice area to do his drills. He's using the entire field, and so he's screaming. His screams go from end zone to end zone. Like they just resonate over the whole practice field. So yeah, you hear him, and you're right. A bulldog's a good way to describe him, and I like him as a person. He seems like a good dude. Big hockey fan, and he's kind of bummed. His kid is apparently a really good hockey player, like a 12-year-old hockey player, and there's nowhere to play hockey in Tallahassee. Yeah. So if anybody listening knows of any way that his kid could continue to play hockey, let us know, and we'll let him know. Because right now he said he's doing research, but he can't figure it out.
Talk to Tom Lang. Tom Lang's the resident hockey guy in Tallahassee, right?
Screw Tom.
Whoa, what's going on?
I'm just kidding.
Next question comes from Matt Y, Matt W-I. I don't know how to pronounce it. He says, Aslan, could you speak to how you felt when Coach David Johnson, told you how to do your job? Oh, you filming? You have to get them coming through. Stand here. It was super cool. Yeah, on Tuesday, I'm in the end zone and filming them because when they get done doing stretch, they gather in that end zone and they break it down. They all huddle together. So I wanted to get a good shot of them all huddling up. And as soon as they're done, like breaking the huddle, everybody sprints out to their station. Well, like running backs or quarterbacks rather come right behind the uprights to where they have that pylon that I mentioned. It's basically a gauntlet of all these pylons, and you run through it. You have to go fast so you can make it through, and it also tests ball security. Well, I've been at a couple of these practices. I kind of have a good idea of where to stand and how I want to get my shot. Well, David Johnson comes up to me. He's like, hey, man, like, are you filming this? And I'm like, yeah. But I'm being like all apologetic. Like, I don't want to get in your way. I'm not here to get in your way. Like, you tell me where you want me to go. Like, I'm being very agreeable. He's like, and he was totally cool about it. He's like, stand right here. And I'm like, okay. So I'm basically 3 feet away from him. And like, it was a great angle as the guys ran through. So it was super cool. I like Coach Yak. He's my guy.
All right. That's good. That's good.
We like them. Let's see if there's a question on YouTube. Let's see here. Corey, do you ever put peanuts in your Coca-Cola? Only asking because I know you live in Georgia.
I did. I guess I shouldn't shake my head never because I have done it. I did it growing up a good bit. And then I realized when I was probably 11 or 12, like, this is dumb. What am I doing? I'm chewing my Coke. Like, this is ridiculous. And it doesn't even taste like, I guess he's asking that because I was drinking one of these. And I don't usually drink these either. This is a rare, no, it's usually a diet, but I don't know why I grabbed this one today, but I did. But no, I have buddies that still do it, and I know Jimbo did it. But no, I stopped doing that when I was in elementary school because I just like I usually drink because I'm thirsty, not because I want to eat peanuts.
Well, most people drink water when they're thirsty, Corey.
Have you tried it? Have you tried it? You tried peanuts?
I've never even heard about that until 3 minutes ago. Never even knew it was a thing.
Oh yeah, no, it's a thing. It's definitely a thing. You dump a little bit in your bottle, or I guess it'd have to be a bottle, not a can. And yeah. It makes it salty and savory and sweet. And then you get to chew what's left over in the bottle.
Like the peanut just by itself, or like a shelled peanut?
No, not that. That would be gross. Yeah, no, it's like Planters peanuts. You just dump a few in there. Yeah, it would be crazy if you dumped the boiled peanuts in there and then had to chew the shell. Hey, I got you. I see what you're doing.
Random_John. Good morning, Aslan and Corey. Good evening to you, friend. I hope you are both doing well and feeling great. The show is awesome, as always, and is a must-listen podcast every episode. I know I may have ruffled some feathers with my practice comment, and I completely understand that football is the driver of the business. With that said, what do you feel it would take for fans to become more passionate about basketball as we enter this new normal of being good every year?
I think that's your answer. You be good every year. I mean, you can't look at how this fan base was in 2015 and how it is now and not see the difference. It's an enormous difference. It really is, not just from our metrics and the way the views we get on some things, not all things, but on some of our stories, the bigger stories and the bigger press conferences after bigger wins, I should say. It's really, really different from 2015, 2016, really even from like 2011 till now. It's different, man. They average, I don't know what they averaged this year, 10,000 in their seats. I mean, I think in 2011, even that was an NCAA tournament team, they probably averaged 7,500. And we didn't have as much traffic when it came to basketball stories as we do now. We didn't have as much knowledge on the basketball board as we do now. And I think that should, are people keeping up with basketball recruiting? All that stuff ties in together. It's still a work in progress. It's never going to be Indiana or Kentucky, but it is becoming a more knowledgeable fan base. And if you keep winning, they're going to be more and more invested, and it's become more and more knowledgeable, and there's going to be more and more attention given to it, I think. And that's kind of the reality of a place like Florida State, but I do think it's growing.
Yeah, I just don't think it ever will. I mean,
Never will what?
It's never going to be anywhere in the same zip code as what football means to the people that went to this university. I mean, unless they win national, we're new bloods, the way that Leonard talked about basketball, but so is the football program. I mean, the football program came on the scene really in the late 80s, which in the grand scheme of things is pretty new blood. When you talk about, when you look at everybody else that's won a national title like in the last 10, 15 years, these are usually established programs, Ohio State, Southern Cal, Alabama, So, I mean, Florida State's kind of, it sprung from nothing, and everything's based around football. We've won a national title. I mean, I guess maybe in hindsight it seems like it was easy. Maybe at the time it seemed like Bobby had struggled for, decades and eons. But in hindsight, it was like, yeah, man, this kind of came easy to us. So, like, until they win a national championship, I don't know if there's going to be enough traction, enough passion built into it, because at the end of the day, man, it's all about the tournament. All the great feeling that everybody felt in the arena. Corey wrote a great column. You can't take that away from the team. He's absolutely right. But if Florida State gets bounced in the second round by a 7 seed, everybody's going to be like, whatever. And then, what's going on with spring football? We're going to be able to watch a spring game, or we're not going to allow to be going to Doak Campbell. So, I mean, we talk about on the podcast, there's games they would play, and I'm like, well, this is a good sign. That's a good sign. And you're like, I don't really think what they do in February really matters what's going to happen in March. Like everything with football, we're a football program, we're a football family, we're a football school. Like every little thing matters. With basketball, it's like you can have a bad stretch and lose 3 games out of 5, but if you get hot in the tournament and you win or you go to the Elite Eight, that's a better year than if you won. The Virginia sort of is a bad comparison because they won the national title last year. But does anybody from Virginia feel good about the team that got bounced by UMBC or whatever? No. You got to win. Yeah, I mean, it's an all or nothing. It's a zero-sum sport. It's an all or nothing thing, and it's too late in the game to make this whole university get really behind it the way that we want to.
I don't. It'll never be football, but it can climb up. It's steadily improving, but no, it'll never be football. But also, I don't think it's the zero-sum game that you do. I don't think that if they get bounced in the second round, that'll hurt the growth of this program. Because they just won an ACC championship. It'll be their 4th straight NCAA tournament appearance. They're number 4 in the country. And it's seasons like this that you keep building to where, no, you're never going to be a basketball school unless they get rid of football. Football is always going to come first. But basketball can be really, really important. I think for a long portion of this, a portion of this school's history, baseball was the number 2 sport. I don't think that's anywhere close to the truth anymore. I see those crowds at baseball games, and I see those crowds at basketball games. It ain't close.
You're right.
Basketball has gone well past baseball, and it's never going to come up with football. It's probably not ever going to catch up to spring football. But it can be a nice, secure second place and have a lot of attention. You can devote your attention to 2 things at once, including, like right now, I'm talking, but my computer's about to die. So I have to go get my power cord and try to plug it in before my computer dies. So this is going to be quick. Go, hey, take over, Aslan.
Oh, beautiful. There's actually, speaking of what, there's a baseball game going on that I'm not at right now because we're doing this live chat. You beat Florida for the first time in like 1,387 days, and Warchant can't even get out to your baseball game. I'm sorry, Meat. I'll try to make it out there as soon as we're done with this. We'll probably take like 2 or 3 more questions as we wind things down. Whoever's taken over our Warchant YouTube account, It's not Ira. Gene. It's Gene, actually. So Gene's on there. People keep asking us what quarterback we want to see win. I think Gene's comment on here is not sure if we're going to address it, but it's too soon to name a quarterback front runner after 2 practices. None has looked great so far, but it's super early. Come on. I mean, he's my boss, so I have to agree with what he says by like nature. Oh, there's the big echo. Kill that echo there, Corey. But he's right. I mean, no, he's right. It's way too early. It almost teeters on the verge of irresponsible, I think, to talk about the quarterbacks in any sort of way that compares them to one another in terms of their production.
You know, and I've charted the first 2 practices. I charted every throw in the 7-on-7 and 11s-on-11s. Like it would take me 10 minutes and I could total up their stats and what they did in those portions. I don't think that's fair. And I think that could get a false sense of who's doing well and who's not doing well, because the competition they're playing is so different. The kids they're playing with on offense are different. I think as we get into pads, I will actually start to do that when they start sharing maybe reps with the ones, if we even know what the ones exactly are. But yeah, I think it's way too early to make any kind of, I agree with Gina, to make any kind of even form an opinion on who of those 3 is the best. And depending on what Chubba is like when he gets here, it might not matter which one of these 3 is the best. It's just hard right now. None of them, you don't look at any of them and go, oh yeah, 10 wins is coming. And this kid's an this kid's a dark horse Heisman candidate. You're not getting any of that. No, there doesn't seem to be a ton of separation. But that's so early, it doesn't even matter. They're in jerseys. They're not even in shells.
I think I'm going to echo really bad. Oh, yeah. Get a hold of it, Corey.
How about now?
Yeah, I think it's just, turn me down as little as you can, as low as I can go with you can still actually hearing me talk to you.
Okay.
Thanos Knoll, I think. Thanol. I don't know. You guys have way too exotic a names. It's coming from a guy named Aslan. 592. Wake up, Aslan. Sweet pea. Past 22 years, we have seen 12 different teams crowned national champions in football. In the next 22 years, do you think we will see a team outside of those 12 win a national championship? If so, who would be your top 3 schools to have the best chance of winning it all? I like that. That's a good question, and I feel like I need more time to think about it.
I'm not saying this because of where I went to school, but my first instinct is to say Georgia. They haven't won one in 40 years. You would think, and I'm a Georgia alum and a fan, you would think the way our fan base carries itself, that we would have won championships every couple years for the last 2 decades. No, I haven't won one since 1980. Since 80. Gerald Ford was the president, right? Because Jimmy Carter, they had a presidential campaign, and then Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter was running against Ronald Reagan, so Jimmy Carter was president. That's crazy. Anyway. So I think they're the one that set up the best to break through. Other than that, man, I don't see anybody on the Pacific side of the country that has a chance.
Which is sad, man. It's to a degree, it's always been a regional sport.
Well, no, Michigan won one.
No, that's what he's talking about. I mean, if you go 22 years, that's what, 98? So Michigan's in his sort of window that he's given us or whatever. Yeah, I mean, if you're going to do a top 3, Georgia's got to be in it. Otherwise, I mean, none of those teams from Mississippi, I don't see them ever doing it. A&M, probably not.
Yeah, A&M's not a terrible guess just because the money out the wazoo, and that dude can recruit. Oregon maybe, because it seems like they get all the best players from that coast, including that number 1 kid in the country from a couple years ago that Willie almost got. Didn't quite land him. But yeah, I think maybe Oregon and Georgia are the 2 that I would think have the best shot. I'm sure there's somebody out there screaming at their computer or phone right now there's an obvious one out there, but I can't think of one.
Well, yeah, I'm just trying to think of like Power 5 program. I don't know, maybe North Carolina, Mac Brown. I saw some big expose that somebody wrote about North Carolina and their recruiting and how like Mac is back. So maybe.
Yeah, no, I'm not buying that.
Yeah, I'm not either. Next question. We'll take 2 more. Also, thanks to Gene jumping in there answering your questions on YouTube, folks. He's the man. He's the godfather. He runs this whole place, and he's answering your questions on YouTube free of charge. Look at that. This question comes from Kirk Knoll. He joined.
Hey, hold on. A little behind the scenes real quick. I just had to plug in my computer, and it's still not plugged in great. I'm having to hold it on the side to make sure it's plugged in. But I'm going around this room that I'm in, which clearly I don't use too often. It's a study without anything in it except some books that I never read. And all of the outlets are baby-proofed. Brady hasn't been a baby since 2009. But yet I had to pull one out of the wall to plug in my computer. That's how often I'm in this room. Now, number one, Brady hasn't lived here in 6 years. But he hasn't been a baby that necessitated a baby-proofed outlet since 2009, 2010. So, anyway, if anybody wants to come over.
How many kids do you think we lost from 1947 to 1977 or 1987 before there were kid-proof plug things?
Well, the answer is, hey, if we lost one, that's one too many. Am I right, Aslan?
There we go.
But probably more than we think. And I just remember going down on these long trips to South Florida with my parents, and I would literally be in the back seat on the floorboard, just rolling around like a Coke bottle for hours on end. And I was talking to my mom about that the other day, and she's like, yeah, we didn't really think about that kind of stuff. And I'm like, yeah, no duh. Like, we've probably gone in the opposite direction too much. Like, these are for us. Yeah. They have stuff for everything. And like, if you have to worry about that kid didn't have much of a chance. But, a lot of it is like, it's just normal commonplace sense. And you're like, our parents didn't think of that. Yeah. Our parents didn't think like, hey, let's put the bleach out of reach of the kids. Right. Like, why not? Did they just not care? Did baby boomers just not care about their kids at all? Like, we care too much.
Yeah, like kids.
But my mom would literally be like, all right, be home for dinner. Yeah. At noon.
Take the bus, walk home from the bus stop.
No way of getting a hold of me. No cell phones. I'm on a bike. And be home by noon, be home by dinner, be home by dark. All right.
Got to see the best of this country. Also got to live to see today as well.
Been a lot of growth, I think.
Kirk Knoll joined yesterday. First ever post. Wake up, fellas.
Nope.
First time poster. Yes, most likely the newest to the Warchant family. Took advantage of that FSU Spring 2020 promo. Wanted to say great work every time on the pod. Hearing a lot about there being a focus to be the best you can be every day in practice. How do you think this will affect penalties this season? Last 2 seasons, FSU was 130th in penalties per game at 9.3, which was up from 9.2 the year before. Jimbo's last year, they were 76th with 6.1. My over-under is 7.5 per game. Over-under. I will take the under. I will hammer the under, Kirk. Welcome to the family, by the way.
That's a good question. Because it isn't like Willie took over like Army, where they don't ever commit penalties. Like, he took over a team that, like you said, finished, 78th or something?
3 whole penalties
But then
per game.
he poured gasoline on it. It went from pretty undisciplined to wholly undisciplined in the course of 12 months. So you have to think the way they coach and what they stress, it'll be less. But I also think there's always going to be, and I know I'm Mr. Crazy, probably Homer, there's always going to be a little anti-Florida State bias with these officials. I think they're always more apt to call Florida State for a penalty than their opponent. I'm telling you, I got the research to back it up. Florida State's opponents last year were called for what? 1 holding penalty? 2? How many do you think Florida State was called for? Florida State's the only team that holds. But anyway, I do think there's a little bit of that built in. But so I won't go all the way down to 7.5. But I will say they will commit 1 penalty less per game. At least.
Right, so you're taking the over still.
They'll be they won't be 130th. They'll be like, just get to the 90s. Get into the low 90s. Right.
Kirk, here's the challenge to you. Maintain your subscription. Well, you signed up for the FSU Spring 2020, so you'll be here for 18 whole months. Remember this. Come back, and one of us gets a victory lap, because I'm hammering the under. Corey's not. He's taking the over. So
Yeah, that's right.
Let's go back to the Tribal Council. This will be our last one of the day. If we didn't get to your question today, we'll be back tomorrow. We'll sprinkle in some insight from Thursday's practice. Again, this is really weird. We're doing this live at 5 p.m., but most of you are probably listening to this on your Thursday morning commute. I don't know what's up. I don't know what's down. Thanks for sticking around with us, though. Darth Knoll 35. Wake up, first post, hashtag FSU Spring 2020. I've listened to the podcast every morning around 5 a.m. getting ready for work. Finally decided to subscribe. To be honest, the decision had more to do with supporting the podcast than in the extra content that a paid membership provides. First and foremost, thank you both Aslan and Corey for the content that you've provided each morning. I look forward to hearing your thoughts and insight. That's awesome. That's great, man. That for real. Like I'm bad at this stuff. Like I don't know how to take compliments all that well, but it's amazing, man. My job is great. I love doing this. Despite some of the knuckleheads that are on YouTube, love most of y'all, but things like that makes it all worth it, right, Corey? Makes it all worth it.
You're not used to getting it. You're not used to getting it complimented as quite as much as I am. So you're still coming to grips with it. I understand. I will say the content on Warchant itself will be worth the subscription. Give it some time. Absolutely. I'm telling you, it's a really good website, and I'm not just saying that because I'm the star of the website. It's really good. Ira really knows what he's doing. Aslan's a good video guy. Gene has more sources and history with the program than anybody. So yeah, man, it's a really good website, and you'll see the difference. You'll see why you need it. You'll see why it's imperative that it's in your life the longer you're on it.
And honestly,
thanks for the compliments. We appreciate that.
We both were subscribers before we ever worked for the website. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
His question: are there any additional details on the injury that Dante Lucas sustained and how his recovery is going? His skill and experience should be a big part of the offensive line rebuild. Also, any way you guys can get Coach Norvell to confirm White numbers will return this fall. I've got this garnet and gold money to spend and need to know if I should wait to get a new jersey this fall.
Smart.
Attaboy, attaboy. I'll try to ask him off camera before we start. I don't want to, I've always been weird about asking a question like that on camera. Not that it's not, important. I mean, what is important? Maybe, he walks up and usually we have a little 10 seconds of small talk. Maybe I'll ask him about that. As for the Dante Lucas thing, injuries are one thing that is kind of it's a learning curve or learning process working with a new coaching staff in terms of what we can ask them and what they want to disclose. They're not keen on injury news, so not a lot to share. He's out there, though. He looks as mean as ever.
Yeah, but that's the kind of stuff we're never going to get. I don't think we'll get officially from them until he's ready to practice, right? That kind of seems in Norvell's MO. And, I'm not going to sit here and complain about it. It's his right to do that. And I'm certainly not going to complain about stuff the media is given with what we're given right now. It's just incredible. I'm still kind of overwhelmed. I mean, it's still crazy to think that we're going to get up tomorrow and go watch another full practice. Yeah. It's great. Although we're going to be in a different area. We're going to be in a different viewing area.
I think it's actually the Aslan Hudjavandi rule, the new thing, because I think what they said in that email they sent out was that we can't film in the end zone until period 3. And I was in the end zone when Coach Yak went up in there, was like, yo, are you going to be filming this? So it's really the Aslan rule, I think. You're welcome, everybody. I'm sorry.
You did it, buddy.
I'm sorry. I mean, I listen, they don't know me. You know how it was during practice. Somebody from FSU was constantly monitoring us and be like, hey, back up. We don't want you to get hit. It's like, we know the ball might be coming at us. We can, we're able-bodied. We can move out of the way of certain things. But I get it. I was probably too close to that drill. But again, man, I know to get away. I'm not trying to disrupt the chi of the practice. But yeah, we'll be on the end zone or the sidelines mostly. But I go back into the end zone for period 3, so that's good.
And don't breathe on anyone.
I won't. Mike Norvell better not breathe on me. I'm more worried about him than me breathing on him.
You're right. Well, you flew internationally.
I did
more recently than any of us. So don't breathe on anybody.
I won't, man. So yeah, one thing too about Norvell, I just want to mention. After practice, he might not, seem very energetic in these interviews. I think some people are like, well, he looks really stressed. Man, he's on for 2.5 hours in that entire practice.
Yeah,
so when
he's got to recharge his batteries a little bit.
Yeah, when he comes and talks to the media, it's kind of like, all right, let's,
You know what it's like?
A sandwich.
Sometimes you'll see Bruce Pearl talk after an Auburn game in basketball, and he sounds like a normal, down-to-earth person and kind of soft-spoken. But when you see him on the court, he is a maniac. He's like, he looks like, it's just incredible. He is a flipping maniac on the court. He is screaming convorting and yelling about everything at the top of his lungs. And he's like, yeah, Dane, I thought we played really well. I don't get all the credit to Kentucky. They did great. Yeah. And 30 seconds ago, he was screaming at Calipari to take it outside or whatever he was doing. It's just, I think coaches, like, they have to be so on. They're not on stage. It's not like it's a performance. This is how they are. But I do think once it's all said, the whistles are done blowing, there's no more activity, you kind of just dial it down to a 2 for your own sanity. Right. You can't be that way all the time. So, I know some people would have liked Willie to dial it up maybe a little bit more past the 2, but Norvell does dial it down to about a 2 or a 3 in those press conferences, which, but yeah, that's a good point by you because he ain't like that at practice.
All right, we're done. Gene's answering a few more questions on YouTube, which is awesome. Again, thanks, Gene. Appreciate you, man. We'll be at practice, myself, Corey, and Gene, Thursday morning, so get over to warchant.com. We'll have updates and then interviews in the early part of the afternoon. We'll have practice footage, raw highlights as usual. Might even have a new intern out there, so might have double the amount of footage. Still the same stuff, but a couple different angles, maybe a couple different drills that I'm not able to get to just by myself. Use that promo code FSU Spring 2020. Again, sign up for a year. You'll get 18 months of access and a $50 gift card to garnetandgold.com. If you don't live in Tallahassee, it's fine. You can use the gift card online on their website, garnetandgold.com. You get all of great insight from Corey, Ira, Gene, Michael Langston on the recruiting beat. You really cannot beat it. Corey, man, again, it's great. I can't believe every single day I call you and I'm like, hey, do you want to do a podcast? And you're like, sure. So thanks again for showing up. I appreciate you.
You're a lucky dude. Right. You are one lucky
Thanks for
dude.
watching, everybody. Have a great one.
Some call them lunchtime lifesavers. Others call them the most perfect sandwiches to ever exist. At Zaxby's, we just call them our signature fan favorites. The Southern TLC Filet Sandwich has hand-breaded chicken with fresh tomato and crisp lettuce. The famous Kickin' Chicken Sandwich features spicy tongue torch and Cool Ranch sauces. And for a limited time, fried pickles are back. 2 classic sandwiches and a legendary appetizer. 3 more reasons you're gonna get a kick out of Zaxby's.